Is it?
Boom. What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and I'm coming at you sideways. This is just my computer's charging, and this is the angle that it's charging on. So it's just like all side profile, not even my good side either. So if you're listening, you're lucky. You don't have to see this. But all right, my lineup ain't that bad, so I'll take it. Y'all are missing out on a good lineup. Okay, it's subpar. If you're listening on Omni Studio, Apple, Spotify. But if you are, rate and review the pod. And we got a lot to talk about. What's up, everybody on YouTube? Like and subscribe and leave a comment. But yeah, man, Nagelsmann. We got Nagelsmann talk. We got Brendan Rodgers has been sacked. We got Graham Potter. Like, I've been like watching Graham Potter on death row for the last probably even before the World Cup, and now I finally don't have to like worry about when he's going to get executed because it happened today. And so Neil is here. Neil Chakravarty, stand-up comic and Chelsea fan. So we're going to get to hear how he feels about that. I feel pretty shitty because United lost, and we haven't lost in a while, and that shit hurt, man. I forgot.
And you can't even sack your manager. Like, that's not an option for you guys.
I mean, I hope not. Well, 15, 6, and maybe 7. So I'll take 15 wins, but we're no longer third. We're fourth. Our goal difference. Newcastle got us on goal difference, but we'll talk about that and the players only meeting that was held after. And there's midweek games too coming up, right? And Spurs plays Everton tomorrow. Martin's going to join us at some point, and Lee is driving slowly to the podcast because he's still trying to deal with the Southampton loss. And we'll get to things. So what's up, fam? Do you want to talk about the Chelsea game, losing 2-0 at home to Villa, which is crazy? You've been having some crazy at-home losses people have been making fun of your team because of how much money they spent. So these losses, the impact of these losses are even bigger, especially after firing like a Champions League manager for an up-and-coming manager, and then him not getting the results. So how do you feel about the sacking of Graham Potter today?
I mean, I'm glad they finally did it. It felt like the only thing that was stopping them from doing it was the fact that, they did sign a 7-year contract or something crazy like that with this guy, put him on a 12 times his previous salary, just completely put all their eggs in a basket that wasn't really very shiny to begin with. So
they spread his contract so they can avoid FFP, breaking an FFP rule. 7 years, damn.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they gave him a pretty long rope. Like, as you said, the Potter out was a thing from even before the World Cup. So we are actually 2-3 months in that conversation, and things did improve a little bit, like performance-wise, and then we got a few results too. But it's always like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, drop points to Everton, 3 steps back. And yesterday was like the most bizarre lineup, and I've seen some bizarre lineups in the last couple of years, but that was so bizarre. Like, we lined up in a back three with 1 center back, while, as you were asking in the chat, are all the center backs injured? No, they're there. They're on the bench. Badishile has been so amazing. Chalobah has been good whenever he's been called upon, and these guys are just sitting there on the bench while Cucurella and Reece James line up as center backs, and Potter's
Chilwell and Loftus-Cheek on the outside of them playing wing
backs, and Potter cracks me up sometimes. Like, he uses certain terms which you're like, all right, why did he say that? He said, he was asked about the 2 fullbacks being played as center backs. He's like, no, we wanted to use Reece and Kukurea as lateral defenders. I don't really know what that means. Like, I thought he's trying to say like want to have them used more as ball playing defenders, but then that's like every center back in the team right now is a ball playing center back. So I don't know where he was going. He was kind of trying to indicate that he has them as center backs so that the team can attack more. Like, why would you take away fullbacks from being fullbacks or wing backs and put them as center back and then expect the attack to become better? Like,
when those are attacking guys.
Yeah, like it was just crazy. And then at some point he made a substitution where I think Cucurella went off, but no other wing back came on. Yeah, so Pulisic came on. So then he moved Chilwell to centre back, which meant Chilwell was actually our best attacker of the day. And then he moved him back to centre back, and then he got Kante on. And I'm watching this, and Kante's like playing somewhere near the goalkeeper, and like he's doing these crazy things. And I'm like, what?
Good things, though. Good things.
So? Yeah. He was good.
Out of position, but good.
Out of position, but like I thought, there's just a lot of desperation, and everybody's just trying to crowd the box, right? And then Potter comes out and said, "Yeah, we tried to play Kante so that he can have runs in behind." I'm like, does this guy think like he's Haaland or Salah or something? Like, why is he trying to play Kante as a forward? Like, yeah, yesterday was, it felt like sabotage. Like it felt like he wanted the sack. So, but yeah, it's happened. I think there's been an air of inevitability about this for a while now. And last time I met Martin, he was asking like, why haven't they sacked him yet? So Martin, you got your answer. They sacked him finally.
Yeah, and if you're watching if you're not watching, Martin has just joined the chat with the most Naziest hairstyle I've ever seen him have. Oh, I'm glad you didn't come on with a mustache, because I'd have to almost. It's like, man, Jesus, are you
gonna get us canceled?
Yeah. Jesus, bro, do not raise one hand, please don't. We're talking about Chelsea and how they played, or how they were not coached, or how weirdly they were coached yesterday. And it was weird for me too. Like, first of all, Chelsea already got all these moving parts. And then, I watch all the top team games. So I would know like most of all the top team players and where they play. So like, I couldn't even follow what was going on yesterday. And I was hitting you in the chat, Neil. So where's Conte playing? So then who's where now? And it's almost like, one of those snow jars. He just shook it up, and the thing was just snowing players all over the pitch. And it's
things fall where they fall.
Yeah, and I think that was like more than why they fired him more than anything. It's because some of the losses early were like very close. They were margins. And then when you started winning, you were winning by that margin. And that's the turnaround. But, I don't know as much about football as Potter, obviously. But one suggestion I did make, which when he was losing, which he took, was pick a team and stick to it. And he was doing that. And then he started getting results. And then he undid that, as you described earlier. So let me ask this other question. How much of his firing
Ian got frozen, I guess.
Ian,
because I see your face moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me answer then.
I'm trying to think about the question. How much of the firing was
at Bayern?
Sorry, Ian, you froze.
You froze for a second, so yeah.
Okay. So repeat your question. How much of the firing?
I was just let me
just say it, Mark, before I get frozen again. How much of the firing of Potter do you think is based on the availability of Nagelsmann? Just the same way Nagelsmann was fired because of the availability of Tuchel. and they and Bayern didn't want other teams to like snatch him up. And then now Nagelsmann is available, and Chelsea doesn't want Spurs to snatch him up. Says like, after this display, you're gone, and let's try to get at this guy before Spurs gets him or anybody else gets him. So the same reason Nagelsmann was fired might be the same reason that gets him his next job. So what do you think about that?
No, I don't think the Nagelsmann availability had anything to do with it, because actually indications are that Nagelsmann doesn't want to take a job right now. Like, he wants to take a job only in the summer. So I don't think there was any real urgency in getting hold of Nagelsmann before somebody else gets hold of him.
But don't you have to like
it's just the results.
fire this guy and then be like, hey, let's talk, and we'll.
No, you can talk before.
But but you don't want to do it behind the guy's back.
Yeah,
it's like, get him out and say, hey, we got this spot. I'm not breaking up with him for you. I broke up with him before, so I just want you based on you.
No, I think it's just the results. I mean, you can say that in the case of Nagelsmann, because in the Bayern sacking, yes, it was an opportunity thing because the results were fine. They just beat PSG home and away. So it was, the trigger was pulled for reasons other than actual results. But in this case, we have the results to point to, right? Like, and the kind of decisions that he was making. So I think it's just good old man just done a shitty job, you get rid of him. I don't think it's much deeper than that. And who knows? I don't think it's a slam dunk that Nagelsmann is going to be the next manager. It might well be somebody else like Luis Enrique.
But it was a slam dunk that Potter was going to get fired at some point.
Yeah. It felt like, why are they taking so long? I think they got a little bit of hope with those 3 wins in 3 games. And I think the reality is that they did want to, have this guy. Like, they believed in him for whatever reason, right or wrong. They believed in him. They did want to give him a long run. But when you go from 10th to 11th in a run that is Southampton, Tottenham, Everton, and Aston Villa, then you're basically not leaving people with much of a choice.
Yeah. Martin, I'm gonna let you speak. I know this is your chance to kick Neil while he's double down, and you're gonna get a chance to kick me because I'm a United fan and we're down. And when Lee joins, you're gonna get a chance to kick us. Because you don't play till tomorrow. So go ahead, start kicking.
But no, I'm not in a position to kick. I mean, I put it on the chat yesterday that me and Neil are like 2 ugly girls going to a nightclub at this moment, because we just got rid of Conte in a very bizarre circumstances, which was not very good PR for sure for us. By the way, I'm wondering if Conte has any chance to land as a Chelsea manager, or you think he burned bridges there?
What bridge? Like those bridges don't exist anymore. Like the complete old hierarchy has been wiped out.
Okay,
that sounds like you. That's what you hope, because you don't want.
No, I don't want Conte. I don't want Conte.
Yeah, I think that was a bad look for him at the end of this run with Tottenham. I mean, he did some good stuff, but it was a really good look. He seemed disengaged. He seemed like pushing himself out of the door, and there's something about him that he does that at every club at some point. It's almost like a self-destructive button that he pushes, at certain moments in each club he works for, and he does a lot of good stuff, but then he pushes this auto-destructive button and erases a lot of good stuff he's done. And he did it at Tottenham. I think he might have a problem finding the next job at the highest level. He might, because that reputation will follow him. With Potter, I think Potter will find another job, and probably with a team that is more of a Brighton type of a team than Chelsea type of a team, though. He might even go to Championship. He might go the route Eddie Howe went. So after he got fired from Bournemouth, that there was something between that and Newcastle, right?
Or he might buy an island with all the money that he might buy an island with all the money that Neil just described that he has coming to him.
Yeah, for sure. And but yeah, with Potter, sometimes it's in the air, like you can sense stuff in the air. Sometimes it's just a question of time when it happens, and you're wondering why it's not happening. And it will, because everybody knows it will happen sooner or rather than later. I don't think there was any doubt between any of us here that Chelsea will at some point eventually fire Potter. There was no hope that he would turn it around at any point. It was just a question when and where and how and where. And obviously the season is practically lost. I mean, technically they fired him ahead of the only game that matters for the rest of the season, the most important game, definitely of the season. They're firing him. So they must have felt strongly that this is a road to nowhere. And yeah, I agree. There's some bizarre decisions. The Cucurella playing as a center back. I mean, first of all, I watch sometimes, one of my favorite shows on Netflix is Money Heist. It's about robbing banks. And I think Cucurella should star in the next edition of it because he's a money heist.
You mean Brighton? Brighton should star in that. Cucurella didn't get that money.
Yeah,
Brighton did.
Unbelievable. Such an average player, and to put him as a center back, which he's completely not fitted to play the position. Completely not. I mean,
so Neil, you think Chelsea's gonna play this Champions League game in 10 days without a head coach and just 2 interns? Is it 10 days?
I really can't tell. Like this ownership, I have no trust in this ownership making the right call. So I don't know. I think
what about
10 days is too
no trust whatsoever. What about all the buys you made? You don't approve of them?
I like some of them. I don't like some of them, and then I don't like the price of some of them. So, I think it's been a mixed bag. But at least there is some semblance of, like, some of the players, like Enzo Fernandez, for example. We knew Jorginho's was going to leave. Kovacic continued at the end of the contract. It made sense that we needed a player in that position. You go and get one of the best young players in that position. That made sense. We knew the wingers were getting phased out, so you go and get 2 young wingers. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to the first blunder they made, right? Like the first, and this is what I always ask of like club ownership. I don't want you to spend crazy amounts of money every window. The first basic thing is some common sense. I don't want unforced errors. The staggering level of the self-goal when they sacked Tuchel is just boggles the mind. It should be researched. Like, any corporate guys, any MBA guys, trying to teach lessons in corporate governance, how to take over a new business. You don't sack the most elite guy in that organization, the one guy that is elite in his field.
By the way, did you hear what he said at his press conference at Bayern, that he still feels hurt?
Yeah, and I think the feelings
Chelsea, because it was like a family for him, and
yeah, and he said that
he gave a Lukaku speech.
Yeah. Well, in Lukaku's case, he decided to leave. So
let me ask you a question: Whose exit interview or interview to get fired was worse, Conte's or Ronaldo's?
Oh, Conte's, for sure, Conte's.
I mean, are you saying that because you're a Spurs fan? You think Conte's one was worse? At least he's a coach. Ronaldo's a player, and he's given an interview trashing the team that made him who he is.
It's more common. That's more socially acceptable, a player going off than a coach going off against his own players and front office. I would say that's more rare. That usually never happens. I think the players sounding off, that happened multiple times in the recent history. So I would say the Conte one was more bizarre and appealing to media to make something out of it.
What do you guys think of Brendan Rodgers getting fired? Let's go to Leicester.
Well deserved. I mean, it's a terrible season for them. They can still get relegated.
But he got fired by the same people who wouldn't buy in players to not be in the relegation zone. Who sold some of their best players. And the timing of their buys is after they sold the players that were already in that position. You know,
It's still on paper a much better team that it's in the table.
attacking wise, but they're losing like defensively. And I think they're terrible on set plays, which means
Which is
the
coaching.
defenders. No, or you sold your defenders.
I think it was also brewing, just like with Potter, maybe a little bit under the radar because of Potter, because everybody talked about Potter and Chelsea, and then losing game after game after game. So that was more of a focus of everybody, where Rodgers was losing games and people didn't talk about it as much. Like the one we watched with when Lee was in town against Southampton, they were not very good. They were just not good, and they had to make a decision, I guess.
But I didn't expect them to be good. And I'm not like a Leicester fan. I didn't expect them to be good because of just how they handled the preseason and the lack of spending and investment in the squad. And it's like, Brendan Rodgers, I think, is a really good coach if you give him players. I feel like this sacking will benefit him more than Leicester. Leicester might still go down, but if some team near the top is like desperate, probably Chelsea's a little bit above his pay grade. He'll be looked down on at Chelsea, but he'd be a good Spurs coach. I tell you that.
No.
He's won more than Spurs has in the last 5 years of his career.
Anybody did.
That's why he would be good for you. Why would you frown on someone who's won? He's won in the same time that how long's he been at Leicester? And he won with a team that ain't supposed to win shit. And you have a team that has the esteem of a team that's supposed to win. So why wouldn't he come there and do something?
I don't think he fits the way we play football. I think Pochettino fits perfectly the group of players we have, and probably him coming back would be a great story. And I think I would definitely like that. I often put it in the chat that I'm a secret fan of Hasenhüttl. I like his style of play, and I disagreed with Lee about his success at Southampton. I think he did have a lot of success at Southampton, where he was overachieving for a long time. And when he finally started losing, people started blaming him for those losses, but this wasn't his fault. The team is just not very good.
So hold on. So hold on. You like Hasenhüttl, who was in a relegation battle over.
I thought that was a joke.
Brendan.
That...
Yeah, I thought that was a joke over Brendan Rodgers.
I like him because he plays the way he plays football. I like it, and he was overachieving with Southampton for a long time.
So you don't think Brendan Rodgers overachieved at Leicester and won?
I mean, he's not bad. I just like Pochettino and Hasenhüttl better than him. I wouldn't be as disgusted with that hiring. Let's say comparing to when they hired Espirito Santo, I didn't like that hiring at all. This one I would be kind of lukewarm about it in terms of like, okay, let's see what he can bring.
Brendan Rodgers or Hasenhüttl?
Rodgers. With Hasenhüttl, I would be very excited. With Pochettino, I would love it. It was a sentimental choice.
Wow.
With Hasenhüttl, I think Hasenhüttl might be the most innovative manager in the Premier League in the last 5 years.
What?
Yeah, I think he was incredible tactician. I mean, Southampton was the worst team on paper, and he kept them in the middle of the table for a long time.
Yeah, I like Hasenhüttl, and they come from the same group of coaching, right? Like, I think there are a lot of links between Klopp, Tuchel, Hasenhüttl, Nagelsmann, and I forget the guy.
I think they're all from Dortmund. And Hasenhüttl, I think he was like Dortmund's third team coach or something like that. Was that him or that was somebody else?
It's like different, they've all had their origins in different German clubs, like Augsburg, Hoffenheim. So, but they have some commonality in like the school of coaching is very similar. So, yeah, I think Hasenhüttl is a good coach who should go to another club. But I agree with Ian that I feel Rodgers is the more logical choice, I feel, for Spurs.
Here's the thing. It can go either way, as we can see with Potter. Some of those coaches that never get a chance to coach big teams, some of them might be as good as, the names everybody talks about, like Tuchel, Klopp. We just never find out because they're always with those worst teams. But some of those coaches too, when they go to a big team, they flame out like Potter just did. But you never know until you get a chance. I think Hasenhüttl on a good team would prove his worth. And because he is a very innovative coach, very adaptable coach, he likes to experiment, and those experiments usually work. If he loses big, but it's better. I always say it's better to lose 5-0 once than 1-0 5 times. So,
how many Spurs fans feel this way? Like
probably nobody.
Yeah. I feel like you'll be the only Spurs fan who would feel that way. Like if they appointed him, the fans would try to burn down that new stadium before a game is even played. Like Neil, I thought you was just joking in the chat. But
yeah, they're trying to pull Lee.
Look who joined us in this moment.
Lee, you just missed the most amazing, crazy proclamation from Martin, who's full of amazing, crazy proclamations. And let me tell you this: this is who is on his shopping list for Spurs' next coach. Top 2, Pochettino, no surprise. Could you guess the second guy?
Yeah, he's going to say Hasenhüttl because he's an idiot.
But he's not joking. He's not joking.
I'm not joking.
I mean, the guy managed Red Bull Leipzig to their first ever Champions League qualification, and he's a good manager when he wants to be. The problem is for the last 2 seasons with us, he didn't want to be. So I can only imagine though that managing Spurs would suck all of his enthusiasm away pretty quickly. So you would get the bad Hasenhüttl straight away almost, as opposed to the enthusiastic good Hasenhüttl. So I think it doesn't really matter who you appoint Spurs manager, because Spurs will ruin them. That's what they do as a club. Like,
Mark.
Mourinho was at his peak, some would say, when he joined Spurs. And they ruined him.
He was
April 2nd. This is April 2nd.
When he joined Real Madrid.
I mean, you look at the great things Nuno had done at Wolves, and then Spurs ruined him. No, I mean, whoever goes to Spurs, the only manager who ever got better at Spurs was Poch, and that was it, pretty much. And then he left, still having not won anything. I think whoever
he won at PSG.
I actually think Potter would be
Spurs.
Yeah, I actually think Potter would be a better fit for Spurs than he was at Chelsea. Like that should have been his logical next step from Brighton, rather than going from Brighton to Chelsea. And they could do a hell of a lot worse than hire Potter. I can still understand why Pochettino's their first choice. For most Spurs fans, almost every Spurs fan I know wants him. So, especially now that Tuchel's off the market, because he was obviously one of the names being linked. But I think any manager who values their reputation and their career won't go there.
There's a lot of teams out here pining over their ex. Chelsea ain't the only one. So is Spurs. Where do we go to next? Because there's a lot of disappointment. It's too bad Spurs didn't play today, so that we could all be like down based on our results. But this is what I'm going to say about the Man United game. I'll just get this out the way. I hate that we lost. And I don't know if you remember this discussion, Lee. This was kind of maybe even before the World Cup. And you were saying the good position that United are in. And I was like, yeah, but I'm worried about some games when we come back. And one of those games was the Liverpool game. And one of those games was this game. Like these games, because I said, yeah, we got points from some teams at home, but it's going to be different when we're on the road against these teams. And Newcastle was one of those teams. So I'm not surprised that we lost to them. And, we had some players missing. They had some players missing. Actually, all their players did come in. I thought Joe Littleton was going to be out for all of the game, but he came in at some point in the second half. But we definitely missed our guys, and we just couldn't hold on to the ball, especially in the first half. And the crazy thing is, I feel like we played better in the second half, which is where we conceded the 2 goals compared to the first half. In the first half, we could have conceded like 4 or 5 goals, but we conceded them in the second half when we actually made some subs and started like knocking the ball around and keeping it. But I think it's good that after the game that the players had a players meeting only with no staff, no management, no coaches. So they realized the seriousness of this loss. And, having a players only meeting is almost like a new manager bounce type of thing. It's like, I feel like our Ten Hag has inspired them so much that they want to take responsibility for this loss. So they're going to try to do something in their next few matches. They're not used to like losing. They don't like losing, and they're going to admit their faults and try to correct the error of their ways based off these games. And so I'm looking forward to see what the team does from now on. Like it's get it together time. And then I don't like being on 50 points. That shit seems low to me. That's just low. And that's not no disrespect to Chelsea.
You could be on 30th.
Yeah, that's
still not at safety.
Yeah. And but yeah, so I'll say that. And then do you want to talk about your game? That was right before our game, Lee, because I was watching that on the plane, and I really didn't get no sleep the night before, but that really put me to sleep. Like I missed most of it, and I was sitting 5 inches in front of me, and I couldn't finish it. So or get through much of it.
I mean, neither team played, amazing. Neither team was particularly
facts.
But neither team was particularly terrible either. It was 2 teams that were just sort of there. They were both present during the game. I mean, we didn't play terribly. That game though was like the story of our season, where we conceded from a set piece. We've conceded way too many goals from set pieces this season. And I knew before the Brentford game it was going to cost us in that game, and it's cost us in this game too. And then the same old problem at the other end of the pitch, where we just can't score goals unless it's Spurs. We scored 3 against Spurs, which I think tells you that Conte definitely deserved to be fired for that game, because we can't score against anyone, but we can score 3 against Spurs. But this game, we just didn't look like we had any real goal threat. We put Onuachu on towards the end, and he had a header come off the bar from across, which was about as close as we came. Perro forced a good save out of Fabianski just after West Ham had scored in the first half. I think a draw would have been a fair result, to be honest. I don't think West Ham really did much to earn it, other than, they were clinical on the one occasion where it mattered, which on the balance of play, a draw would be fair. But we just got punished again for not being able to defend set pieces and not being able to score goals. So I'm back into pessimistic mode again. I've been that way for a while, but we keep having those little moments of where there's a glimmer of hope, and that's not necessarily always because we've played well. It's because other teams around us have been so bad that they've not let us sink. And even this weekend, there's a couple of teams that pulled away. Obviously, West Ham have shot up the table with a win. Palace turned shit around and went back up, but Leicester are starting to drop back down. Leeds lost again as well. So it's a real mixed bag down there. But I just think the fact that we can't ever put a run together is what's going to kill us, because we can never win 2 games in a row. We just win or draw, and then we lose 3 or 4 games, and it's it's not good enough.
Well, let me just say this: you're 4 points out of 14, which is crazy, because that's where West Ham is with this win, except West Ham has 2 more games in hand on you. So they're not truly in 14th. They could actually be high. They got games in hand on Wolves and games in hand on Crystal Palace. So and then if Chelsea don't watch it, no, they're not gonna get that far. But yeah, but you're 4 points off 14. I guess let's go to the top of the table.
Well, let me say a few words about Southampton. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Kick
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I wanted Southampton to stay up. I really did, and I talked about it on the podcast. But I think this is it. I think this is a wrap for Southampton. And unfortunately, the reason why I'm saying that is if Southampton were the type of a team that scores a lot of goals but doesn't get results, that gets like those like 2-3 losses, 3-3. 3-4, 2-2, and can, I can see there's a pattern for them to turn it around by just scoring more goals in the next couple of games and maybe defending a little bit better. I think I'll be more optimistic. But the fact that they're just not scoring and just not creating chances, that is for me with where they are at the table. I don't think it's salvageable. It's just the offensive side of it. I don't think they have enough goals in them to stay up. And I know, Lee, you've been talking about it for a while, but finally I think I understand that. The last time the last time you won, we watched the game together against Leicester, and it could have gone either way. Then there was a good draw against Man U, but also it was on the defensive side, right? So today, no goals again, and it's gonna be tough. I don't see a way for you guys to win games consistently.
No, not at all.
Who you got?
Like I said, that's we got Man City next, which is great.
That's in your wheelhouse, though. You do teams like that. You should hope to face top teams most weeks because that's where you do your damage.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I know we beat them in the League Cup, but I'm not sure we can do this one in the league. They were frightening against Liverpool. But I mean, we've got them. We've got Palace at home though, which is a game that that's the sort of game we need to win if we're going to have any hope. And then I think we have Arsenal away, which I've got a ticket to. It's a Friday night game. We're playing Arsenal at the Emirates. Right. I don't know why I bought a ticket to it. I was like, it's in London. I'll go see that. I get to enjoy a nice stadium for one of the final times before we go down to the Championship. And I think we have another winnable game.
There's some decent stadiums in the Championship, and the Everton's new stadium is going to be down there. So you're going to get a good tour of some quality stadiums. But go ahead, sorry.
But yeah, the next 4 games, like I said, we've got Man City. That's a write-off. Palace at home is winnable. Arsenal away, write-off. And then Bournemouth at home. So from those 4 games, because it's Newcastle away after that. So from those games, we need the 2 home games, the Palace and Bournemouth games. If we can't win those, then I mean, I think we're already down already, to be honest. But yeah, it's not looking good. We're running out of time, and we're not consistent enough to put the run together that we need, in my opinion.
It's tough because Bournemouth, they're not just going in the middle of the night. They won this week too, and they put up a fight. They know what
hell of a goal from Tavernier as well.
Yeah.
The first one for them.
I'm like, where has this guy been? Like, you could have somebody who could do that. Like, where the fuck he's been? But that was a great goal. Also, Crystal Palace won. But let me just say something about this Crystal Palace win. If Crystal Palace stays up, which I want them to go down now because they fired Vieira and hired Roy Hodgson, which makes no sense. And every win Crystal Palace gets, I'm going to bring this up. We know you fired Vieira after the tough part of your schedule. We know that all the games that you got coming up Crystal Palace are winnable. So I'm not going to give this no new manager. Roy Hodgson is all of a sudden genius coach, bounced, and Vieira couldn't have done this. Vieira could have beat this team, and he could have beat the next few teams you got to face. So I'm not going to give up on that point ever until the season's over. And now I want Crystal Palace to go down, and maybe we could buy Eze. And I like
but the thing is,
too.
Vieira dropped Eze. Hodgson put him back in the team for this weekend. And he obviously turned up. And a lot of my Palace friends, I've got a few, they were saying like Hodgson went back to basics and he put the players in their best positions, which is what he hadn't been doing previously. Hodgson had been playing Elise as a centre forward. He's not. He put him back on the wing. He put Edouard up top, and he put Eze in as the creativity in midfield, and it paid off. I think they had more shots in that game than they've had in all of 2023. They had 31 shots. They had 31 shots against Leicester, which is insane, and they had not been doing that in any of their games, even the tough, obviously the easier ones they had under Vieira. So
do you think Vieira moved players' positions because the teams he were playing were tougher, and he wanted to be more cautious in those games, and then maybe would have like loosened it up for these games coming up? You know how coaches move things around based on opposition. Was that it?
Not according to the people I know who watch them. They couldn't understand Elise as a centre forward at all. And the continued starting of Ayew, who I think came off the bench in this game.
Right.
Eze getting dropped, to be fair, some of them agreed with Eze getting dropped because he doesn't do that much of a job defensively. He's there as a creator, as a number 10.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of agreed that sometimes, if you're playing Man City, you can't really carry an Eze who's not going to, help out in midfield. So maybe that one, but a lot of the forward stuff, they couldn't wrap their heads around. And the fact that they had centre forwards and they were playing a winger as a centre forward, and they had Edouard and Mateta who weren't doing anything, sitting on the bench, and they were a bit confused by it all. But it's a hard one because it's a big what if as to whether or not, going into this easier run, Vieira would have got those results. He would have got something.
I know he would have won. Not to me.
Well, apparently he's going to be the next Leeds boss. They're gonna because Javi Grassi is only there till the end of the season, and they think he's next. So we'll see. What he does at Leeds next season if he goes there.
We'll see.
What if we're City at some point? Because Vieira was part of the Man City group for a long time. He played there, then he became member of the staff, and then they sent him to NYFC, right? So he's like in the family. That was his first. No,
that's it. That City group don't play, man. You got to be a proven coach. And so you're saying to take over from Pep?
Yeah, at some point.
I mean, I didn't want him to get fired from Crystal Palace, but let's not get crazy. No way.
I mean, City are not like Chelsea, right? They make very commonsensical decisions. They're not gonna try and do something left field like that.
City, this is how common sense City is. They make decisions that last and work for years, so that they don't even have to make decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like even the Jack Grealish thing is kind of a bad decision because you lose out on goals, but because it's a good, but the fact that he's a good player, and the good decision about the bad decision is you lose the goals, but if you keep playing him, even though he's not giving you the results, it turns into what it turned into now, where he's getting to the point where he's getting a lot of assists, not as many goals. He got one this weekend, and he's gotten some recently, but it's working out. So then they don't waver. They don't be like going with the wind, like, oh, this guy ain't playing great. They're like, no, we're gonna stick with this thing. We're gonna make sure that this works. Like I believe in this thing, and so now Jack Grealish is like very viable for them.
Even John Stones, right? He had like a terrible season.
Yeah.
So I remember, like he kind of was being talked about the way Harry Maguire gets talked about these days. But then they trusted the guy. They got him back playing, and now he's right up there.
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah, we got him into the England squad.
Yeah.
So City. Yeah, you're right about that. City. they make decisions that last like a historical landmark building. And shit is gonna them things is gonna be around. You guys want to talk about Liverpool, Man City? It should be the number one topic we talk about. It was the biggest match of the week, but people getting sacked. And one thing about the people getting sacked, is it my imagination, or are more people getting sacked at the end of the season than seasons that happened before? Like, it's and the type of coaches that are getting sacked are like people who have gotten really good results with teams that aren't that good the year before or the years prior, that like now. Like, what is it about this year, or is it just my imagination? I'm just
some of them are just Nathan Jones.
Content Tottenham was mutual decisions. Same with Potter, was a mutual decision, right? PR? No?
Like even the Tottenham one is weird, because you were fourth when you got fired your coach, and it's not like, but the coach wanted. Your coach wanted. Martin, your sound is funny.
No, I said that technically we didn't fire him. It was an agreement.
You had to fire him. You had to fire him, but the fact that he wanted to be fired is like, when you're fourth and you still could do something, but he completely gave up his belief in the team.
We still can, it's as you look, which I don't think Man U slip out of the top four, but you only got 1 point in 3 games. And you're not like 100% guaranteed to finish top four at this point.
Yeah, but we had a player meeting today, Borough. So after that, all players meeting, we'll do that. So what's your thoughts on Man City versus Liverpool and the 4-1 ass whooping? And here, let me just say my thing. Like, Liverpool was so poor in that second half that if Rodri had gotten that second yellow and Man City was down to 10 men, I still believe Man City would have beat Liverpool. That's how poor Liverpool was in the second half. And they gave it their all in the first half, but at some point in Liverpool's season, in all their games, they'll come out and you'll believe that they are Liverpool from 2 years ago or the year before. And then just like in the second half against Real Madrid, or you could just go down the line of games this season where they just fall apart, like where their belief in themselves as a team and their structure, and you just keep pounding them and they just cave. So seeing Klopp like this, like, I am not supposed to like a Liverpool coach, but this is like, to see this man like this is crazy to me. It's undescribable. Like, to see him in the press conferences, like distraught with no ideas. But what did you guys think of the game?
Well,
I thought it was
without Haaland, so that's a big win for
Without
City.
Haaland.
Yeah, so that's a big win for the team. I mean, they had to win, otherwise the title would go to Arsenal after this round, pretty much. So they had to still play catch up with Arsenal, and they still, I believe, have 1 game to play against Arsenal. So I mean, they have to put pressure on Arsenal. It's such a strange season that, we are not playing well. We're still in a fight for top 4. Liverpool, there are games where they look fantastic, like the one against United. Sorry for that input. But there's where they look really bad. Chelsea is straight up bad with Potter. The whole time was bad. What else? I mean, the teams are inconsistent. So Arsenal could be in a position to win the title because other teams underperformed, and City are the only one that are still sticking by.
And anybody else, what do you think of the City Liverpool?
I think it kind of showed sorry, go ahead, Lee.
I was saying it was really a game that once Liverpool crumbled, it really exposed where their frailties are, because City were just getting down the sides of them, crossing that ball low, scoring those goals. So they're exploiting those spaces in behind the fullbacks where we know Liverpool can be weak. And also, like, I think it showed how gutless Liverpool are when City get one goal back and Pep is taking the piss out of the players on the sideline, those Liverpool subs, where he's like celebrating in their faces and going for their handshakes and stuff. If I saw that happening as a Liverpool player, I'd be like, nah, you're not scoring any more against us. We're going to go and turn this shit around. The fact that they just went, you can have a few more.
Like there was no shove back. Like I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of players would just like give it back.
Yeah, I want to see a bench clearing brawl. If that happens, like, I'm not letting that shit happen. But they were just spineless, and it showed on the pitch as well. The players they had out on the field just had no fight as soon as that goal went in. That second half collapse was bad. And I mean, I don't know if we're getting to the point where Klopp can't turn it round. I still I don't think he'll walk, and I don't think he'll be fired. So I think he'll get a chance to maybe rebuild that midfield. And see how they do next season, because there's a lot of players potentially available to them. Obviously, Mason Mount being one that they've been linked with. They've been linked with Bellingham. Whether or not he'll, deem them suitable enough for his ambitions or not, I don't know. But they're definitely going to overhaul that midfield in the summer. And I think maybe they'll see if that breathes new life into the team, perhaps. And whether it fixes all the problems like people say it will. And I still think there's some other glaring issues they maybe need to correct as well.
What's the other glaring issues?
Fullbacks. They're great going forwards, but I don't know. But if the midfield helps the press, then it might, mask that, because obviously those fullbacks won them a Champions League and won them a league title. So there's something there. But I mean, yeah, I think they'll give Klopp, maybe, unless he somehow thinks in the summer, I'm tired, I need a rest, because he's been managing them for so many seasons now, and that's an intense football club to manage as well. The expectations from the fans, the atmosphere, and everything. It's it's a mentally taxing job to have. I think any football management job is, but especially there. And he might just want to rest. I don't know, but I think he'll get a chance. If he wants it, he'll get a chance to rebuild in the summer. And see how they do. But that'll tell us whether or not it's the end for him, if he buys new players and overhauls the team and they still can't challenge for a title. Because I think they'll finish higher next season than they probably will this season, but that's not too hard because fourth place looks beyond them now.
Yeah. And what do you think about the game, Neil?
I thought it kind of showed like how far the gap has increased between these two teams. They were like neck and neck last season, and it felt like City they went 1-0 down. It felt like they could go like 2-0, 3-0 down, give them the entire first half and still come back and win the game. Like it was like when they wanted to flick a switch, it was just so easy for them. Like we're all accustomed to the convention, the typical City goal, right? Like you play a lot of good passes in midfield, you take the ball out of the back, play a lot of good passes in midfield. The ball goes out to the wingers, cut back, cross, and it's a tap in. They did that twice in this game, and it could have happened a couple of more times too. Like they had no Liverpool. Like when you're preparing a game against City, that's the one thing you prepare against. And Liverpool used to be like the most prepared team. They just couldn't. It felt like they just had no weapons to like lay a glove on them. So, as I was saying, like the result, I don't think is that big a deal, because you can lose to City and still, if you win against the other teams, your top four chances can still be salvaged. But the manner of the loss, what it does to the psyche, because those players must be sitting in there thinking, like, what have we done to ourselves? Like, we used to be neck and neck with this team last couple of seasons.
So that's why I feel like their confidence is shot. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then talking about like the gap, like that made me realize, like, Man City has two teams. Like they literally have two teams.
Yeah.
But Liverpool don't even got one team. Liverpool don't even got like a solid starting 11. And then when they make subs, they make mid-table team subs now, like players who are not going to be on the same level as the people that are taken out. Some of the people that are taken out ain't even on the level of Man City's players. They wouldn't even, it's because just, I don't know if it's time, age, like Henderson is old and Fabinho is old and Wilner is old. Like some of these people they're putting in, starting, it's just their time is up. Like, so it's just, and even the young players, some of the young players are not playing on the level that they should be. So there is a lot of work, midfield and defensively, like Lee was suggesting, for Klopp to do in the summer. I don't even Liverpool gonna probably have to go on a Bowley spending spree to fix this shit. And I don't know if that's legal anymore. It wasn't even legal when Bowley did it. So, and he ruined it for them. And then, but yeah, it's startling to watch. And I always doubted their consistency. Their consistency is their inconsistency. And yeah, they're not going to make top four. They might not even make the Conference League at this rate. I guess the next thing to discuss is Arsenal. They just keep marching, bro. Like,
I mean, they had a hiccup. They had a hiccup 2 months ago, but now, yeah, they're back. They're back on winning terms.
What do you call a hiccup, Martin?
They had like a month there. They didn't win, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row, and people and it looked like City on paper, and City beat them, and I think City were ahead of them for 1 round. That was
it wasn't a league game though. It was like a FA Cup game.
They beat them in the league game, and I think they surpassed them for 1 week at the top of the table. And then they lost the next game to someone, and Arsenal started winning again. They had this game, the crazy game, and then won in a stoppage time that turned it around for them.
They had like 2 of those. They had 2 of those back to back.
Yeah. So that turned the season around for them, and it looks like now they're cruising. Yeah, looks like they're full of confidence. And listen, it's a great story if they win the title, but it's still not 100% guaranteed. But one thing we can say for sure, that it's only 2 teams competing for the title. It looked like United might join the race. Now United joined, but a different race.
No,
you had to get that one in.
What race are we in, Martin?
With us and Newcastle.
So you think coachless Spurs is in the same race as Ten Hag United after we had a players-only meeting? Good luck.
They had the players-only meeting.
I'm telling you, man, that players-only meeting is going to turn shit around. Like, you know how many players-only meetings you guys should have had, and you never had one. All the crises you had this season, Spurs players didn't even think, let's go have a conversation with each other. Never once.
Those are the only meetings we're having right now, the players-only meetings.
Yeah, because you got no coach. You were forced into players-only meetings because your coach talked himself out of coming to any meeting ever again at Spurs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I'm just talking shit. We'll see what happens. We're basically all in the same boat. I never thought we were out of it. You know, like I don't, you know, I'm always like looking over my shoulder, head on a swivel, watching my back. And we're always within range of Chelsea, not Chelsea, sorry, that's Freudian switch, of Spurs and Newcastle. And also I'll be looking over my shoulder, looking at Fulham and goddamn
Brighton.
Brighton.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Brighton dropped points against Brentford this week too. Like that was my first good result of the weekend, was that. So, you know, that's how much I'd be looking over my back. I mean, I don't trust none of this shit. And, you know. So, but Arsenal, there is just,
Well,
I have to watch this. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
I have to watch this documentary, this All or Nothing.
Yes, you do.
Because I don't know what this dude is doing, right? That his team, with all the pressure that there is, could go out there this freely every week as if ain't nothing going on. Like, as if there is nothing at stake. Not only that, just the way it's like, one time I went to Coachella and SZA, who's a very good up and coming killer artist, went on, and she fucking killed, right? And I was like, damn, what's his name? The Weeknd was next. I was like, what is he gonna do? And that motherfucker went on stage. He didn't even say hi to the crowd. Hit. He just sang a hit. Then he sang another hit. Then he sang another, and he just kept on the hits. And he murdered, like he just knew exactly how to respond. It was like, I'm just gonna keep pumping these hits. And he recovered from SZA's performance and stood out. Now, it didn't matter anyway because Beyonce came on later and erased both of them. But the fact that just the way he dealt with the pressure of like following somebody who killed like that, and we're all stand-ups and we've had to like deal with like, you ever been backstage and somebody's murdering and you're next?
Oh yeah.
You know how that feels because you want to do good, but it gets in your head, and it can affect your performance. And so what Arsenal is doing is nothing's in their head. So what the hell is he doing to these kids? And maybe it's a combination of Arteta and the spirit of some of these players, because Saka has always played like that from the moment he started in an Arsenal shirt. Thierry has always played like that, and he's not even on the pitch. And then, like, even today when I look at United and how Weghorst leads the line, or when Marshall is out there, like Gabriel Jesus, like he plays forward like he's a defender. He attacks you immediately the entire game. So it's like everybody is playing like with this energy, like, and their head is in the right place, and it's tough to do that. I don't think they could duplicate this next year. This is a chemistry experiment going perfectly, and it's going to be tough to do this again. Like, I don't care how much talent and skill they got, but this is really a masterclass. And we still can't even tell if they're going to win it because of Man City's professionality. But that's what I had to say about
like I told you, you have to watch the documentary. You'll see his impact. He's kind of a crazy maniac, but his voice is being heard in the locker room. Like, the players are following his direction. And I would say you would be surprised to see some people in this locker room having a big voice, like Granit Xhaka, for example. I looked at him differently after the documentary. He's a voice in the locker room. He's a really very inspirational guy. He really keeps this team together too, and there are some other people that it's a lot of good characters in this locker room. Some of them are more like humble, hardworking, like Saka, talented. They don't talk much. They talk on the field with their game. And some are talkers, like Gabriel or Xhaka. But of course, Arteta is a huge, big character. I would say he's a bigger character than Pep, even in terms of his person in the locker room. He's a borderline maniac. But now I understand why it works, and I agree with you. It might be the same story like with Leicester City when they won the title, that it's not going to be repeated consecutive years. But who knows? That's what people said also when Arsene Wenger won the first title, that it's going to be only one title, and then he built something for 20 years to come.
The good thing about Arsenal is you can't buy Arsenal players. Like with Leicester, you could pick them apart. Like Conte left the first season, and then the next season, Mahrez left the next season. But you can't buy Arsenal apart. And then those players are in. I don't think Real Madrid could come and be like, hey, man, we want this guy, this guy, this guy. And I think all those players are like, nah, we staying right here, fam. So I think the Arsenal's in a great position. But, yeah, I got to watch that documentary, apparently.
Yeah, it's good.
Lee, is there anything you see coaching-wise? Because you taking the badges and all that stuff. What is going on?
A lot of the stuff he does in the documentary is actually like a lot of his motivational stuff is actually really corny. And I'm wondering if there was some stuff that you don't see that they don't put in there, the real meaningful shit. Because some of the stuff, like when he wheeled speakers out onto the field to play "You'll Never Walk Alone" before they played Liverpool, and then they got hammered. And some of his stuff, like when he gets a light bulb, when he has a light bulb in the changing room, and he's talking about, it's corny as fuck. I think what it really comes down to is that he's likable and he can get away with it with those players. But also just his knowledge as a player and a coach. Like, he has a really clear idea of what he wants his teams to do. He makes sure that the players understand that, and he makes sure that the squad is built to that end. So all the players they've recruited can play that way. There's no director of football saying you have to have this player, but it's like, and Arteta's like, well, that's not someone I want. Like, everything there seems to be working in tandem. Like, Edu, the sporting director, seems to be able to recruit players that Arteta wants and fits into his system. The system of play is understood. And that's a big thing. Like, it's a real basic thing, but so many clubs do it wrong.
Yeah.
So many clubs,
and I'll actually touch on that. Let me touch on that, because in the documentary, they made obviously Aubameyang as a villain of the documentary in a lot of ways. But it also serves as an example for Arteta, because it was Arteta who froze him, who picked him to go. And then Edu makes some calls, and we see how Edu works, which is also very important insight into the club. And Edu seems like a really nice guy who is communicating with Arteta. They're on the same page, and they both try to make shape the team the way Arteta wants. But you can clearly tell that he made an example of Aubameyang of what type of personality he doesn't want to have in the locker room. And those guys who he brought to Arsenal, they have a certain type of personality that fits that locker room. And the very important part about all these gimmicks and all this antics of Arteta, whatever he does, one thing stands out from the documentary: the players are either listening or responding to it. That nobody's questioning what he does. Nobody's ever like making faces or saying something. Everybody buys into what he does.
Yeah.
Everybody buys.
Even in the tough moments during that documentary, you can see they're all united as a team.
Yeah, the one guy who did it was Aubameyang, and he just let him go. The Aubameyang made some faces, and he just took him out.
You know, I was saying earlier how City sticks to their decisions, and their decisions last as long as a landmark. Like, they stuck to the Grelish decision, like for 100 million, and they got him in. And it's like, well, you already got Sterling, and then they stick to it until Arsenal has done that, like with Arteta and with Edu. Like, they've not only done it with their players, but they've done it with themselves. And I think Edu and Arteta have something to prove, because Arteta was an Arsenal player, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't seen as no legend as a player. And Edu played on some winning teams, but he ain't really, like, when you mention like Invincibles or Arsenal players, his name don't come up. So I feel like these two feel like, no, they're going to talk about us like they should have been talking about us when we played. Like, this is it. And like, even though they're from two different eras of playing, they are the same. They were held in the same like mediocre regard. And this is their moment to prove that they should be seen as more in an Arsenal shirt or out of it or organization. So I think they have that bond, But it's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. And the documentary actually makes even more sense now than it was last year, because last year you was
laughing at it, weren't you?
Yeah, because it didn't pay off, in terms of results. But right now, when you watch it now, it kind of makes a lot of sense, to be quite honest with you. It kind of makes a lot of sense.
So let me ask you a serious question, man. How much do you think you're going to lose to Everton tomorrow? Like 1-0, 2-0? Like, what do you
beat them by wide margins recently? So I hope that will continue.
Yeah, I think you could beat them.
Unfortunately, I have to be a Spurs fan tomorrow, which doesn't ever sit well with me. But
yeah, you do.
I just hope one more thing. I just hope we get rid of Richarlison. I mean, he seems to be a bad apple on the team. I mean, I really don't like what he brings on and off the field. Conte said it right when Richarlison said something about that. The season is shit. Conte responded, yeah, he had 0 goals for the whole season. So I understand where he's coming from. And twice he kind of showed up after scoring. The both goals were disallowed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't want him on the team next year.
All right, that's funny. So I'm looking at the midweek games. We have midweek games. So tomorrow is Martin versus Everton. And what is this? Tuesday, April 4th. Two wounded old lions that used to head the Pride limp into each other's stadium. Chelsea versus Liverpool on Tuesday, fam. Like, how you feeling with no coach and the mental state of Klopp? So he's barely coaching. Like, what do you think of your chances with your no coach versus the shell of a Klopp?
El Crapico.
El Crapico.
It's gonna be a fun one. I don't really know what to expect. It's Supporter's gone, but a lot of his assistants are there, including the guy who's gonna be taking charge, Bruno, yeah, Brighton legend, and who would have thought, like, he's probably gonna lead the team out against Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinal. But
somebody has to.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect. I don't think the rest of the season matters much. If we get lucky in the Champions League, maybe there is a lot of talent in this squad, and that's part of the reason why Potter had to be sacked. We shouldn't be where we are on the table. So it's not inconceivable that somebody comes in and just gets a few basics right, and we are back winning games. But right now, like today, there's not a lot of positivity because we don't really know which direction this club or this team is going. Liverpool have their own problems, right? Like defensively, that high line has been time and again exposed. We all know the problems in midfield. So it should actually not be that tough to set up right and try and expose some of those weaknesses. But I just have no belief in us being set right now.
Damn, I'd hate to be a Chelsea fan right now. Damn.
Well, we're more cheerful than we were this time yesterday, so
So the sacking kind of made up for the loss?
Well, yeah, like some people are like, that was great by Mudryk. Like missing that 101, that is commitment to the club.
I mean, that miss looked like match fixing.
Yeah, that was terrible.
I'm glad you mentioned Mudryk now, because Lee was talking about how, like, the synergy between Edu and Arteta and getting things right, and some clubs don't do it. And one of the things that they wanted to do was bring in Mudryk, and they didn't get Mudryk, so they had to settle for second best, which is Trossard, who has 7 assists since he joined, and plus he's got goals too since he joined in the transfer window. So to like pivot, call an audible, and Chelsea actually helped Arsenal out by stealing Mudryk, because Trossard is just a better fit, not because Mudryk might not be better than him in the future, but for right now, but this season, Trossard is what Arsenal needed, and they wouldn't have gotten him if Chelsea didn't get in the way and overpay for him. So
I think both teams got the right player in the end, because I think for Arsenal, the fact that they haven't won the Premier League in so many years, it's very important for them to get over the line. So anything that they can get, even Jorginho for that matter, to cross the line this season, you can kind of put the future on the back burner to make that happen. It's that important for them. Chelsea getting Mudryk, I think that's something we'll only know in the future. I think he's a good player. I think he's a raw talent. He's coming off of having not played any football, because they had the league had the preseason going on, and also Potter's not been using his strengths well. Like, he has pace, he's a proper pacey winger, and we try and use him in these different positions, like number 10, like a striker. Yeah, I don't really know. He's not you allowing him to use the width that he's famous for.
Where did he start this game? In his position, right? On the left?
On the left, but like on the left, like in a as a number 10, because we're playing like a 3-4-2-1. We're not playing a 3-4-3.
Yeah,
it's Chilwell
it's like an
doing
offensive. It's like an offensive triangle, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's Chilwell who's using all of the width, and that's not Mudrik's game, from what I've understood.
Is that how Conte played that? 3 at the back?
No, Conte used to play wingers, Hazard and Pedro. So he used to play the 3-4-3. This is similar to how Tuchel used to actually play 3-4-2-1. Where he used to use Mount and Mount and Pulisic, or Mount and Havertz when Lukaku was there, and a Mount and Werner with Havertz in front. So 2 double tens essentially.
Right. But
that's the other thing.
Go ahead.
The other thing that confuses me sometimes about managers and players is when, a manager has a preferred system, but they clearly have players that suit something else, like the skill sets that are available to them. And they're like, no, this is the way my teams play, or this is the formation that I play. I'm going to put the players into this, even if it doesn't get the best out of them or utilize their skill sets the best. And it's kind of stubborn when you see that. And it's like, I don't really understand why you're doing this.
Well, in Potter's case, it was even worse because he had no system. Like the system would change from like week to week.
No, he had multiple systems.
He had multiple systems. Then that makes recruitment.
He had all the systems.
He had more systems than he had new players, which is crazy because he had so many new players.
Yeah, like literally, he could just pick any system and stick with it, but he refuses to do even that because we have pretty much players for every profile, except for maybe. Well, he has the outlaw striker too.
A scorer.
Well, he has Aubameyang. He's chosen not to use him. Right? That's a call that the manager has made. Nobody forced him.
Well, watch that Arsenal documentary, then you'll probably figure it out why one might not use Aubameyang.
Well, I mean, that doesn't really matter, right? Like, dude was scoring goals in Barcelona. Thomas Tuchel went out and got him. Tuchel's not, he's not a yes man, right? Like, he would not, if Aubameyang is a guy that you just cannot work with, imagine like Tuchel will not go and get him. So, yeah, whatever. Like that's the job of the manager.
People knew him from Germany because Aubameyang was a big Germany. The problem.
I think Tuchel wanted Aubameyang.
Yeah, he did. My point is like when there are coaches at the top level who are vouching for the guy, just make it work. It's not like you have any other option.
Yeah, the problem with Aubameyang is, and he might be a nice guy, I don't know. I've heard some good stuff. He's good friends with Lewandowski, for example, and I think he did a good job at Barca overall. I mean, he did decent job there. I think the problem with Aubameyang is that he doesn't fit every team's strategy because he doesn't really defend, and he's a kind of a solo act, So you need to build a team kind of around him, to be quite honest with you, And I don't think that's what Arteta likes to do. So it didn't work out at Arsenal at some point, and I don't think. Graham Potter was the type of a guy who liked that type of a player either, So if someone wants to have a guy up front and you just build the whole offensive game around him, and that's Aubameyang, cool. But if you want the striker to do a little bit more work, then Aubameyang is not the choice.
I feel bad.
I find it tough to believe that Tuchel would buy a striker, expecting him not to work hard for the team, because that's been the core principle of his forwards. But my point is not even that you have to rate Aubameyang as a striker highly. My point is, if you want to play a system that requires a striker, you have a striker. You can use him. So the fact that you're not using him shows that you don't value a system that uses a proper number 9. So he had all options available to him. There's not a single profile of a player that you can think of that he didn't have at some point available to him.
Right. I just want to talk about one more game coming up midweek, and it's United versus Brentford. And we owe Brentford the same way Newcastle felt like they owed us for what happened to them at Wembley. And so they showed up today. Like, we owe Brentford for what they did to us at the beginning of the season. And Then the players knowing that this match is coming up might be one of the biggest reasons for the player talk after the loss to Newcastle. Is because like we're gonna get this team at home that destroyed us in the beginning of the season, and we're gonna take the respect back from them that they stole from us and our confidence at the beginning of the season. So this is like plus where Brentford is in the table, like this is normally Manchester United Brentford is not a big match, but Brentford had made this a big match. And then after our loss to Newcastle this weekend, like we have to win this. Plus we're at home. So this is, I always watch every United match, but this is as big as a match as Chelsea and Liverpool are not as big as a match anymore. And that's it. I don't know if you guys got any closing statements.
No, I'm just glad we're not playing 2 games this week as well, because it would just be 2 games for us to lose.
I was in North Carolina, Wilmington, and some people that listen to the podcast showed up. And they said they listen every week. So yeah, the guy was a Chelsea fan, one of the guys, Neil.
Hey, happy to today.
Yeah.
So it's been a great weekend for him. We got to see you perform, and Graham Potter's out of the club.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw him Saturday. So maybe if I had a Sunday show and I did it tonight, and he came tonight, then I would have seen how happy he was. But yeah. Well, Martin, thanks for joining. Bad luck tomorrow. Guys, we're in the loser club right now.
You guys are.
Like
I'm
shit.
fans.
You might. I mean, you should win this, but who knows?
Who knows?
If you lose this, you should actually be more depressed than all of us.
No, because this season, like every game is a surprise for me, either good or bad. You know, we win the games that I'm not expecting to win. We lose the games I'm not expecting to lose. So this is the most realist I've ever seen Martin become. As a Spurs fan. Normally he's like, what it is.
Martin, you started the season saying we're gonna win the league, knowing that Man City had Haaland. That shit was so astounding. Like I would never forget that.
I will go with the statement comments.
It's like I said every single season though. Spurs are football's premature ejaculators. They start well, they get really excited, they blow their load, and then it all goes to shit.
Well, it's better premature than never.
Hey, we'll be winning something when we go down next season.
Promotion.
We all except a few Ian lost their coach this season, you know. So there's a lot of losing coaches. You're the only one that the coach before the season, but all of us lost the coach during the season.
Sure, he lost two coaches.
We're the firing club. We're the firing squad. We're the firing squad.
One big footballing trauma group on here.
Isn't that the stat that Lee posted that De Zerbi is the 11th longest serving manager in the Premier League?
That means 10th is probably Ten Hag.
Yeah, probably.
And he just got here at the beginning of the season. It's so crazy. So is there more firings this year than?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
I would think so. Yeah.
Because some people lost 2 coaches, more than one team.
And you know what's crazy?
And this is just a Zoom with 4 people, and there's 2 teams that lost 2 coaches already. It's fucking crazy.
The one manager that everybody wants to fire for years is now the number 1 spot in the league. They tried to fire him for years. Everybody was like, how come is he still the manager? Like that makes no sense. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to stick to shit. I mean, I got to give the Chelsea board credit. They tried to stick with Potter. Like this is not a premature thing. You can't be like, this is not one of them things where you be like, they made him a promise and they went back on it. No, they had to end this, and I'm sure Potter will find success. It's probably just a level right before he's ready for this level. I like him as a coach. I rate him, but Like, yeah, man. Like, shit. Like, the only reason why, like, we had 2 coaches last year. So it's your turn.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all for listening and watching. And like and subscribe and leave your comments and let us know what you think. All right, y'all. 1.
All right. So we'll do this quick picture. Everybody ready?